on this. That's on the press.
Go. We're good. The Royals split their series with the Seattle Mariners. There we got more trade deadline talk. And are the Royals really interested in Brian Reynolds? Talk about that right now on One Royal Way, featuring my son and Sonic. Got it live here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Happy 4th of July to everybody. Hope you have a great Friday off. Joel, you want to drink a beer to celebrate our freedom live on YouTube? Let me at least hit the break first, Alex. Listen, I do have a bush of apple downstairs that will probably be grabbed after I finish this coffee. I love that that's the first comment popped up. Thank you for hopping in. Anybody that is watching this live on YouTube, a little different, 10 a.m. on a Friday. This is not a regular thing, but with the holiday and the 4-game series where they were all late starts, 8:40, 9:10. I'm not built to stay up until midnight, especially when I got to get up at 5:30 for work the next day. So if this were my day job, I would stay up, but that is not the case. So I obviously still watched all the games. I paid attention. Even if I didn't watch it live, I watched the next morning. So still up to date on all that. This show, as always, brought to you by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our partners impossible here at Kansas City Sports Network. And on One Royal, and I'm cutting in and out a little bit. Still getting used to the office situation and some of the Wi-Fi stuff, and we'll kind of go from there. But the Royals split their series with the Seattle Mariners. They alternated wins and losses. The Royals win last night 3-1 on a 3-run 7th inning. But I rather than trying to do a game-by-game recap, I feel like I'm just having the same conversation over and over again, pretty much every episode that I do, because it's all like, yeah, they pitched really well, but the offense didn't do enough, and that's just the nature of what we're talking about here. A lot of the same issues with runners in scoring position. Yeah, the outfielders. Well, I'll get to that here in a little bit. Please stop. Nick, can you pause the show real quick? We'll come back here in just a minute. This is good. All right, we're back, everyone. Thank you for your patience. So earlier this week, if you weren't aware, my son joined me on the Zone with 810 when I did my normal Monday spot. I wasn't working that day, so I brought him with me. It was a really cool moment for us. I think he was trying to do something similar, but he saw the camera, and I think he was just having a good time. It's not a big deal. He's, whatever. It's just like, hey, he's trying to do something here. But in this series, like it was a lot of the same. I thought all 4 starters pitched pretty well. I thought Walker was solid, solid enough to where you think you can win a game. Noah Cameron pitched well. Get him into the 5th inning again. Michael Lorenzen did what Michael Lorenzen does, and I thought they managed the bullpen well in that game because he only goes 4 2/3. But Schreiber gets you out of an inning. Zerpa gets you out of an inning. Ursay gets a big ground ball. Steven Cruz probably throws his best inning of the year, getting Julio Rodriguez just blowing Cal Raleigh's doors off. And getting Jorge Polanco, that basically won you the game there. And then last night, Lugo gets you through 6 and pitched really well in that game as well. So more of the same there. But offensive inconsistency was just a major part of this again, where they score 6 runs in the first game of the series. And it's like, oh, second game of the series. And like, oh, hey, they're back. And then only get 2 in the next game. And then, then you only get 3 last night, but those 3 came in a really big spot after Logan Evans, who is a rookie, kind of in the similar situation as Noah Cameron, like still kind of trying to work his way in and figure stuff out. He shoves through 5, and the underlying numbers are really not good for him, despite some pretty decent stuff. Not a great situation there for him. But it ultimately didn't matter. The Royals couldn't hit him. You lose 6-2 on Monday, and I'm going to go through the runners in scoring position because it tells you a lot here. They were 1 for 4 on Monday against George Kirby. Really, just nothing to speak of. I think that one hit was late. Tuesday, I should have had this pulled up, but again, I got a little bit of a late start today. I think it just shows the offensive inconsistency. They go 4 for 15 and leave 9 on base, but they score 6 runs. Salvi just has a red hot day in that one. Wednesday, another offensive performance where you're like, I don't know, man. Like, it's 3-2, and you go 2 for 9, leave 8 on base. So it's this offense. It just is what it is at this point. Like, it's not a good offense, and that is putting it as plainly as possible. There's more numbers you can dive into, and like what's going wrong. We've talked about the inability to hit fastballs. That's a huge part of it. They go 3 for 9 last night, leave 9 on. Now, 2 of those hits were massive, with Bobby getting Kyle Isbell to score off when I think this 3rd season. And then Vinny getting 2 in later, right after Bobby, which was after Bobby stole second. Now, that really probably should have just been 1 run, but Bobby is a magician on the bases. And that's one of those where I talk about sometimes, process and results don't always match. That's where results did not meet the process, right? Like, the result was good because Bobby scored. Bobby should have been out by about 10 feet. That was one of the few times this year. I remember last year and the year before, like a point of contention with a lot of people was the sends by Vance Wilson at third base. I don't feel like we've seen that as much this year. Now, some of that could be because they're just not scoring a lot of runs, but that was one where I'm like, oh, I don't know about that one. But it ended up being ultimately, it worked out because you got one of the fastest dudes in baseball and a hyper athlete, that gets in to score. I still just, I don't know what to do in a lot of these situations when I'm covering this team because the pitching is awesome. And like most nights, it's very, very good. And they handle every situation very well. The bullpen is still solid. The starters are obviously continuing to do their job. Seth Lugo threw the ball great last night. He lowered his ERA to 2.65. Like, he is as good or even better in some areas than he was last year. Which is something coming into the year I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to do. The bullpen, Lucas Erceg, it seems like he's kind of back on track now. Estevez, a little bit of a sweaty one last night, but 4-out save. He ends up getting out of that one. He's still been very good. Probably going to be an all-star, or at least he should be with 24 saves. Steven Cruz has been a revelation for this team. Out of the bullpen when they really needed a 3rd or 4th guy that they can trust. He's become that. Zerpa's been kind of up and down, but he's been better as of late. They're all these things. But is the offense going to be good enough? And we just flatly right now, I don't think it is. Like, even with as good as Bobby Witt Jr. is, as good as Vinny Pasquantino has been since the calendar turned to June, as Mike Hell's continued to be really steady. Salvi has been better as of late. I mean, the bottom of the lineup is just horrific most nights. And this is where, you talk about the outfielders from, Alex Duvall, and he's been on this. I'm going to go and read some of the stats because it is just, it's mind-boggling when you look at the numbers. And I'll read off the stats that he posted because it is nuts. So this was before the game yesterday. He had Royals outfielders are in the middle of a 14 for 129 stretch. That's combined, like primary outfielders. And their collective weighted runs created plus is 49 during that stretch, which would be the worst number in the history of baseball. I mean, that's 50%, 51% below league average as a unit. And changing, but that's just anybody that's played the outfield. If you add in like Michael and Jonathan India playing some left, it's 59. Like, it's still awful. Like, what we're seeing is, like, obviously Kaggs has been well below expectation to this point, or let me put it this way, it has not lived up to the hype, but it's 100 plate appearances or so into his career. Like, we'll talk about that probably later, I imagine. Kyle Isbell, he is who he is. We know he's mostly in there for defense, but he can get you a knock every now and then. He'll lay down a sack bunt. Like, he is still going to do a job in the 9 spot where I don't worry about him as much as other guys. Drew Waters is who he is, who we all kind of thought he was. He had that really good stretch when he came up from Omaha and looked like, oh, maybe he's turned a corner a little bit, even though the underlying numbers kind of showed this was going to be possible. The numbers are back down to the underlying stuff. Nick Lofton swings like he's trying to hit the ball really hard, and the exit velos are just not very good. Like, yeah, he can draw a walk. Yeah, he's okay, but you can't have him in the lineup every day. But you may need to have him in the lineup every day because the other options aren't good either. Like, Tyler Tolbert's there to pinch run. Is not an everyday big leaguer, but they have him in the lineup right now because the other options just aren't good enough. And then you still have like Kevin Biggio, who they may just bring him back because, frankly, like, he'll at least draw a walk. He'll at least put together a good plate appearance. He's not going to hit the ball hard. He's not going to do a lot for you. But there's things he does that provide some value offensively that they may have to go that route. And this is where the Brian Reynolds conversation, I think, gets interesting as to why the Royals would be interested in them if the report is correct. But I do need to hit a break here. It'll be the longer break here because it's a live show. So please enjoy the musings of Tucker Franklin here for the next couple of minutes.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Sure to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. We are live here mid-morning on the 4th of July. So I do thank everybody that is spending their morning with me before the festivities kick off. And listen, I had a triple dog dare in the chat. I'm a man of my word. I'm not one to turn this down. So cheers to everybody. It is a holiday. It's reasonably not early in the morning. So here we are. Oh, that goes down so nice. That is going to be an issue in a few hours. All right. Cheers, Supermo. Thank you for hopping in the chat here, as always. So we just had a little conversation about how poor the offense has been for the outfielders. And listen, that is well known throughout this season. But when you put some of those numbers to it, I mean, it's pretty jarring how terrible it's been lately. But this is where it was interesting when the report came down from Ken Rosenthal, I mean, who's about as plugged in as everybody, that per his report says the trade deadline's starting to kick off, and we're starting to get to some of these places where these guys are starting to get moved. That the Royals are interested in Brian Reynolds from the Pittsburgh Pirates, and now he has not been as good this year as he has been in the past. He's been a pretty consistent bat, made an all-star team, over the last couple of years, slashing 237, 301, 393 this season. That's a weighted runs created plus around the 90 mark. And that's not who he's been in his career. Now, if you want to spin zone that, he had a really, really terrible start to the year. He's been in OPS around 845 since the middle of May. So he's closer to the guy that he, has been for the majority of his career, and some of the underlying stuff is in a pretty good place here. If I was smart and my brain was fully connected this morning, I would have had this up initially. But like you look at the expected batting average, expected slug, the hard hit rate, some of the underlying batted ball data, it's in a pretty good spot compared to what the surface numbers and the box score numbers show. The issue is he's not a great defender in the corner outfield. They moved him off of center field for O'Neal Cruz, and O'Neal Cruz is a horrific defender. So I don't know if that's necessarily the scenario. But I mean, last few years, he's been around, a 260, 270 hitter, on base 330 and 23, 344 last year, slugs around 445, 460. It's a 790 and 791 OPS last 2 years. The money part of this is where I find it interesting because he still has about 5 years and $60 million left on his deal with a club option for 2031 that I believe, if I looked at it yesterday, is around $20 million. So I guess that would be where, it's probably just going to go through 2030, and they're not going to pick that up if I'm looking at that number correctly. It's a $20 million club option when he's 36. That is what concerns me more than the money. Is you're paying a guy right now, he's 30, through his age 35 season at about $15 million. Now, in today's game, $15 million in the grand scheme of things is not that punitive. But when you're a team like the Royals with the payroll constraints that they have relative to some other teams in baseball, that's a little concerning. Supermo in the chat here, the haunting specter of Renfroe got everybody gun shy on Reynolds. I do think that is totally fair. I think Reynolds is a better player than Hunter Renfroe. When the Royals signed Hunter Renfroe, I was not real excited because I had seen what he had been the last couple of years. He was always I'm fine. But I didn't think it was really going to make a difference, and ultimately that bared out being correct. I do think that he is a better player than Hunter Renfroe even now and going forward. I think to his abilities, switch hitter, a little more contact oriented. He'll still strike out a fair amount, but he'll also walk a fair clip too. So I think now the strikeout rate's 25%, which maybe that's going to increase as he gets older. But I think the floor is high enough with him that I'm not as concerned about that bottoming out. Alex makes a great point here, and I was about to get to that as well. If he's willing to play left, it probably helps having Isbell to his left and Bobby Witt in front of him. Totally. Now, you're playing a pretty cavernous outfield, so there's a little more range that he might need to have, but he's a good enough runner. He's an above average runner. It's like 27 something sprint, feet per second sprint speed. It's like in the 70th percentile or so. That ends up being okay. So from a player perspective, I've seen wide ranges of, the Royals should do this, and the Royals should absolutely not do this. I fall somewhere in the middle. Like, I do think there's an element of this where I'm like, I don't know if that's exactly what the Royals are going to do. It could just be smoke. It could just be, hey, maybe the Royals are willing to take on a contract for this year, sell off some pieces, but bring some pieces in to still remain competitive going forward. Because I do think we are trending in a direction where the Royals are going to sell at the trade deadline. But I don't think we are trending towards them blowing it up and trying to start again from the ground up like we saw in 23. Like, I don't think they can go back down that direction. That would be untenable with the core that you currently have and the superstar you have playing shortstop. Like, I don't even think, as much as Bobby is committed to Kansas City, I don't think he'd want to do that, obviously. And I do think there are enough pieces in place with this team still that are under club control that they'll do some tinkering. And I think that's completely reasonable at this point because the offense is clearly not good enough to win. Now you sell off a couple pieces, you add some pieces back. Maybe it kind of evens out in the aggregate a little bit, and you still feel like you have some momentum going into 26 and can still compete for a spot. And what we've seen is, this team can develop pitchers and they can help pitchers get better, even veteran guys. You bring in a veteran starter next year on a Michael Wacha type deal or like the 24 Wacha deal and let Brian Sweeney and Zach Bove go to work on their arsenal. You're still going to end up with a pretty good pitching staff. Presumably you have a healthy Cole Reagans. What they decide to do with Chris Bubich is going to be very interesting. That is not a piece I think they can move at the deadline, but I do think he could get you a pretty significant haul if that is a decision that they end up making. Lugo, I think, is about as good as gone if they do decide to truly sell, which they're 41 and 47 right now. Like that's the direction they need to head. It's just where they're at now. And Lugo's got he could hit free agency, so it's like a year and a half technically, but it's more than likely a rental, and he's going to re-up and get another deal. But with how he has performed, he's a mid-rotation starter, probably closer to like a game 2 starter in a playoff series that is going to net you. He's going to eat innings. He's going to get you, he's going to save your bullpen. He's done that in Kansas City for the last year and a half. Someone is going to value that. The Dodgers, the Cubs I've seen are allegedly interested. I don't know what kind of prospect haul you're going to get back, but I feel like you might be able to get something decent. I haven't fired up the trade machine to figure that out, but certainly, at this point, I think you sell Lugo probably sooner rather than later just to make sure that you can get that deal done. Kind of like what they did with Aroldis Chapman back in 23. Like they maybe jumped the market a little bit. And with it being a kind of limited seller, limited buyers, because there's so many teams kind of in the middle, like the Royals, that are, a few games under or like kind of right in that mix, the Royals might be able to take advantage of teams willing to give a little more just to get it done. So that would be kind of an interesting avenue. To go back to Brian Reynolds, I kind of jumped around a little bit there. Like I said, he's got 5 for 60 left on that deal. How much of would the Royals be willing to take on in that spot? If they take on all of it, which I wouldn't expect. But I do remember last year there was a report that the Royals would have been willing to take on a bad contract if it meant saving some prospect capital. Like maybe buy a rough contract, take it on so that they're not having to give up as much. If it really is a 5 for 60 and their Royals take on all of it, it's not going to be punitive prospect capital wise. So that could be where it gets interesting. And I also would not be shocked if that's what the the Pirates end up doing. That ownership group is cheap, and they kind of panic gave Brian Reynolds that contract because he wanted out, and so they were, we'll just pay you. And they gave him the richest contract in the history of the franchise, I think it was. And now it seems like he's kind of wanting out, or they're wanting to shed salary, something like that. So that would be the avenue where, if that's the case and the Royals decide we're going to take on the deal, okay, because then you're not having to give up a lot. Like, you're not having to give up a Blake Mitchell and, I don't know, Ben Kudrna or something like that, or a Drew Beam, one of your top pitching prospects, one of your top catchers, for, to get him. It may be, I don't know. Maybe you get take a flyer. Maybe it's Ramon Ramirez just because he's further away. But we'll see. And that's going to be one of the more interesting avenues of this, is how they decide to handle it. Now, some other guys that you could consider trading, Carlos Estevez, it would be a year and a half because his is a true 2-year deal. But that one, I think it happens a little bit closer to the trade deadline. I mentioned Chris Bubich. I talked about him on one of the last episodes as well, that, John Paul Morosi floated that on MLB Network. The Royals do have a really interesting decision with him coming up this off. This is going to be his last year of control in 26, because he came up during the COVID season and accrued a full year of service time during the 60-game season. So I guess what we see at the deadline is how do they feel about extending him? Because I would extend Chris Bubich. I would give him a decent deal that would keep him in Kansas City. But I don't know if the Royals would want to do that. So maybe he rides out the rest of this year in Kansas City. Well, then he's got 1 year left. And again, do you want to try and get him on an extension a year early so he has some financial security, and you lock down a high-end rotation starter for the next 5+ years? Or do you, and I don't think this is the scenario the Royals do, but do they ride out the year and try and get him in the offseason after, another year of starting? But then contract year is undefeated, as we know. If he goes out and balls out like he has this year, all-star type pitcher, mid-2 ERA, he's going to go and get a high six-figure contract from somebody probably. Someone will take a chance on that. So we'll see. But maybe you trade him this offseason with a year left. You can get something back for him, kind of like what they do with Brady Singer. Just, try and add to the big league. Maybe like kind of in a swap like they did with Brady Singer. Brent Ritter here. Do you see the Royals trading Lugo? We just talked about that a couple of minutes ago. I think he'd net a very nice prospect. Yeah, that is going to be what the Royals have to attack. Last point there, getting a young bat. And it may not even be a guy that is ready right now. Like, the name I've seen thrown around a bunch is a guy named Owen Casey from the Chicago Cubs in that organization. He's in AAA right now. He's a young guy. He's like 22. I don't even think he turns 23 here in a couple of days, according to Fangraphs. He was a second-round pick. He got drafted by the Padres. I'm not sure how he ended up in Chicago, but regardless, I think that might have been in the Darvish trade, would be my guess. But I mean, he's been a very solid hitter for pretty much his entire time in the minor leagues. You go down the list from the complex AAA, it's been 178, 107, 150, 112, 140, 143, 115, 129. No, you're good, Brant. I know you may have hopped in later than normal. And sometimes when I do these live shows, I have the tendency to bounce around a little more because I just start going. Maybe just a peek into how my brain works. In 67 games of AAA, slashing 262, 373, 520. The one concern I would have is this is a second go round, and this has been a concern basically his entire time in the minors. The strikeout rate has never been lower than 28.4%. He's striking out 31% this year. Now he does have 14 homers, which is, that's fun, but it's a high strikeout rate. I don't have access to, I don't think have any more like savant data to show like some of the underlying stuff if you're willing to kind of eat that that sort of strikeout rate. But he's a young outfielder with control, could allow you to just move Cags back to first base. The Yankees would be interesting. I think the Dodgers are going to have it because they're bullpenning. Like he may just be around for vibes at this point. Like he got 4 to the White Sox. I got 3,000 punchies, which is awesome. But I think that would be another team to pay attention to. And they have decent prospects going. The Yankees have some interest with the recent injury to Schmidt. I could see that one as well. Let me check kind of pipeline. Because I hadn't really considered the Yankees. I know the Cubs and the Dodgers were two teams that had come up. Who's the most desperate with the best farm system? I think the Dodgers would probably fall into that category. I think the Cubs would as well. The Yankees farm system is okay. I mean, it's pretty top heavy. Like it's a lot of guys that are kind of boomer bust ish. Like Spencer Jones. I think George Lombard is probably not as boomer bust, but Spencer Jones certainly is. I don't know if they have that sort of like the type of like guy, they don't have the type of guy that would really make a massive difference with the Royals. Maybe like an Everson Pereira, who's got like a cup of coffee a couple of years ago. He's 24. Maybe that's the name. I mean, I would love, and this is not a name that I think a lot of people would know, and I don't know if he would be available in a trade because I do play second base, but I love Rock Riggio, who played for Oklahoma State. He got drafted by the Yankees this year he's been across 3 levels. 2 levels. I think he was hurt to start the year, but right now he's slashing at AA in just 24 games. He's slashing 269, 333, 591. He's always been a dude that takes a walk. Not as much since he's gotten to AA, but like he walked 71 times in 398 plate appearances at high A last year. He walked 20 times in 72 plate appearances, or what is that? So at bats, so 92 plate appearances at high A before getting called up. So that would be kind of in the patience department who I would want to go get if that were the trade. The Dodgers, let me look at their outfield, like who they'd be willing to part with. But the thing is, like, I don't think the Royals want to go and get a high A outfielder in a deal like this. Like, unless they go and the Dodgers are like, screw it, we'll give you Zaire Hope, but that's not happening. Like that dude's one of the best prospects in all of baseball. Maybe like it's a name that, and if they do go and get a lower end guy or a lower level guy, I know the Royals Weekly guys love Mike Sirota, who's at high A right now. And on the year between low A, high A, 333, 456, 24 with 13 jacks, 46 walks, 58 strikeouts. So, I mean, there are going to be names to be had, but I wonder how do the Royals attack it from taking maybe a guy that's ready now versus maybe a better prospect that's in like high A that then you try and develop and maybe by 27 he's up. Like it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle like the soft sell aspect of this because they're not selling off everybody. They're not getting rid of Vinny and Michael and Bubic and all. They're not doing all that. It's really just going to be, I think, Lugo. I think Estevez is going to be a serious conversation. And then Bubic is kind of floating out there like, what do they want to do with him going forward? So it's going to be really interesting to see. If Tigers really want to deal Jace Young, would you be interested in a buy low for him? I'm wary of trading in division, but I'm not like you can't do it. Jace Young has, from what I remember, he's been pretty bad at the big league level. but I want to look at the numbers just because I feel like that's more anecdotal than anything. I mean, he was a 102 weighted runs created plus last year in 34 games. This year it's like a 15. He was pretty bad in 18 games. He's slashing 211, 365, 392 at AAA this year. So I guess that would be truly a buy low, but do you want to go and make that deal, right? Like, I don't know if the Tigers want to part with him, and I don't know if the Royals want to take on that guy right now. Now, the other name that I do think is interesting, and he got recently demoted based on performance and just, hey, reset, figure some stuff out. That's Josh Young in Texas. I know it's a name that Alex brought up. Alex and I are buddies. We talk about it quite a bit. You know, this year he's slashing 237, 283, 366. But I mean, last year, even in, you know, he only played 46 games. In 23, he was 266, 315, 467. You know, was a rookie of the year candidate when the Tigers won the World Series. Pretty solid third baseman. Like, I think there's some multiple play there. He's only 27. You know, maybe you make him your everyday third baseman and you can flip Michael the second and just go with that going forward. That would be a buy low candidate I would take. If that's just maybe he's soured on Texas. I know there's some talk about, you know, handling coaching and criticism. I think I saw that on Foul Territory. So I guess that would be a name to watch, certainly. But I don't think that's more just pipe dream stuff than actually what the Royals could do. Does anyone have any other questions, maybe about any questions from the Mariners series or going forward here? Let me get the probables for the Diamondbacks series. If I can get that here. It's Chris Bouvage versus Eduardo Rodriguez on Friday. Michael Wacha versus Ryan Nelson. Two lefties on Saturday. And then on Sunday, it's Michael Lorenzen versus Zach Gallen. I feel pretty good. Well, let me put it this way. We should feel good about the game tonight. Because from what I have seen, Eduardo Rodriguez has been mostly awful this year. Yeah, it's a 5.10 ERA. But the FIP is 3.98. So he's just not getting hit around, hit for home runs quite a bit, despite the ballpark that he's in. But I guess with this offense, I don't know if I can ever feel comfortable about where this offense is. But I guess we'll see. And we'll see what this team has in them, if they do have anything in them to turn this thing around, try and get back on track, or if they just continue to sink and it's like, oh. Okay, Brian had a good question here. Who would you say are the top three prospects in the system if you take away Cags? And Cags is basically going to – I don't even know if he is on prospect rankings anymore. He might be because there's once you hit a certain threshold, you no longer have prospect status. Let me check that out because he might be still on here. Yeah, he's still on the list technically, but he's going to come off shortly. Carter Jensen is certainly one. Blake Mitchell, even though he has not played this year, I think the upside that guy has is probably all-star level catcher. From a power perspective, he'll take a walk. He's great defensively behind the plate. Just got to get some of the throwing stuff down. It looked like he kind of got the Ys at times last year, but I was very skeptical when the Royals took him, and he was very impressive through low A. He had a busted hamate in spring training that really set him back. Then he had a setback when he was coming back at the complex. But he's starting to work his way back into games. I'm hoping that we will see him in high A sooner rather than later. But at the complex right now, it's 280, 500, 480. 10 strikeouts to 8 walks. Dude's going to punch out a lot. But the defense is really, really good. So he's probably going to have a long career in the big leagues with the type of profile that he has. mentioned Carter, and then I think third is David Shields, who's in low A right now. That kid is just really, really good. And like just the stats, if you haven't seen, he was the second round pick last year out of high school. Another prep lefty. Brian Bridges loves him some prep lefties. The scouting director. In 37 2/3 so far in low A, 2.87 ERA, 42 strikeouts to 7 walks, a whip under 1. I mean the clay here that the Royals have to work with, like this dude's upper end starter. Like he really could be. And it's kind of wild saying that about a dude that I don't even think he's 19 yet. Yeah, he doesn't turn 19 until September. He is super, super young. He was 17 when they drafted him, and he was a senior. But as long as he's able to build a little more velo with the fastball, like he has this, I mean, the mechanics are clean, the delivery is fluid, and it's almost got this nonchalantness to it. Like it's that fluid. But the fastball plays well at the top of the zone. He's got a wipeout slider with it, a feel for a changeup. In and around the zone at 18, 19 years old is incredibly impressive to have that low of a walk number. When you compare that to when the Royals drafted Frank Mazzucato, and I know that I dunk on the dude a lot, but when the Royals drafted him, it was, okay, he's got this really good curveball. The fastball, velo, he's got to build it, and the command is not great. We've seen all of that play out. Despite some lack of velo, at least right now, for David Shields, he's around the strike zone. He's showing he has a field of pitch that Frank Mazzucato just doesn't, even at Double A now. Another question from Brayton here. I like your top 3. Definitely agree. Thank you. Glad to know that my opinions are validated. Where do you see the Royals going in the draft with their top pick? Now, that is the toughest thing to guess. And I'm not trying to dodge the question. But with the Royals drafting at 23 this year compared to where they were, the last, 8 years, drafting in the top 10, top 3, it's a little tougher to tell. The latest MLB pipeline mock has them taking Cruz Schoolcraft, who is a prep lefty from Portland. Again, this is the type of guy that Brian Bridges really loves. But like the kid is a bit of a physical freak. He's 6'8", 230. The fastball grades out at a 60. He's been up to 97. It's not that's more from just the velo, but in the report it says that he doesn't spin it really well and it doesn't carry. So he's more just the levers, just the long levers being 6'8". 2-plane slider. And he's got some really good feel for it. So that should add makes the fastball play a little bit better. Maintains his delivery well, lands everything for strikes. A decent feel for a changeup at his age as well. Now he is going to Tennessee. That's the commitment. And being at 23, I don't necessarily know if the money the Royals would offer him would be enough to keep him from the NIL money he could make at Tennessee. So that may be the risk you run taking a guy like that. Supermosa, Daniel Pierce, Jack Bauer as well. Okay, let me look up those names because I'll be honest, I have not done near as much research on the draft this year because they're drafting 23. Like it's a little harder to tell at this point. With the All-Star break, coming up here soon, I'll see if I'm able to get somebody on here to talk draft for any questions you guys may have about some players to watch and stuff like that. But Daniel Pierce is a 6'1", 185 shortstop, high school from Mill Creek, Georgia. Mill Creek High School. Says mature approach, quick right hand swing, Average raw power, probably 15 homer type guy, according to what, what the now pipeline it is what it is, but that's just to me the easiest, most accessible resource. Plus speed, good range at shortstop. They have him graded as a 55 overall, so a decent prospect. And he's 18, so we'll see. And then who's the other guy? Jack Bauer. Let's get something on this guy before we get out of here, I think. And thank you to those that have hung out in the chat here. Jack Bauer is a prep lefty from Lincoln Way, East Illinois. So this dude's really interesting. So he's 6'3", 190. They have his fastball graded at a 75, which if you're familiar with scouting scale, it goes 20 to 80. He's touched 100. He hit 103 in a playoff game. That's pretty bonkers. Because I guess he had been, but he's mostly like a 95 type guy, which again, like 95, 97, that's great. If he's able to consistently get to 100, like you got like a Noah Schultz type. That's what this screams to me immediately. It's a low 3/4 throwing upper 90s is pretty nuts. He throws a high spin slider. He's got a good feel for a change. So there's some feel for pitching with all these guys. I think that's what we're seeing now with Brian Bridges is, yes, we're going to take the prep lefty, but we're not just going to take the tool. Like, we're not just going to take a prep lefty just to take one. We're going to take one that has a feel to pitch, a couple of, high-end tools, and build from there. And I think we saw that with David Shields. I want if they do that with a Cruz Schoolcraft or a Jack Bauer at 28 would be, because the Royals have picked 23 and they have picked 28. So that could be really interesting if they go maybe like, I don't think they go two prep lefties, but I think they could go one or the other, and maybe take an overslot or something. Maybe you take the shortstop we discussed, and then you go and take Jack Bauer at 28, and he's the 44th. So maybe you're able to get him on an underslot deal at 28. Come over here and help build. And it'll be really interesting to see this second go round with Brian Bridges, where he drafted a whole bunch of pitchers, he drafted a whole bunch of dudes, and we'll see what the results are in a couple of years. It's hard to tell right away, but that's about the end of the draft analysis that I'm truly able to give with any sort of analysis, because I have not done a lot of research on it, admittedly. So we'll see. Any other questions before we get out of here? Alex, you're still watching, if you have anything too. But I do appreciate those that have come in here and hung out. A little bit of a different time. Hope everyone has a great, safe 4th of July. Don't let this be the last day you woke up with all 10 fingers. If you are shooting off fireworks, if you're just going to be like me and watch the fireworks and have some bush lattes, we'll have a good day. Appreciate the support here. We'll be back on Sunday, talk about that Diamondback series. We'll recap those games, and maybe we'll have a little more information on when the Royals sell, if the Royals sell. Thank you, Supermo, for always hopping in. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your support. And we will talk next week. Toast game to all of you for hanging out with me on a holiday. So we will talk on Sunday night. Take care, everybody.